What's up guys, Fedor Holz here, and today I want to address 7 common mindset traps and how to get out of them or avoid them. Number 1, that is a very common one, is if you have no game plan in your poker journey. So if it's not really clear what poker is to you, if it's a hobby, if it's something you want to pursue more intensively as a professional maybe, that is very important to have the record straight, to set that so clearly that it's very clear to you what your goal within poker is. That's the first thing you really need to set straight from the beginning as much as you can. Is poker a hobby, or do you want to achieve a certain financial income with it? That's going to be the first thing you need to be very clear about, because otherwise it's just going to be an uncomfortable situation that you will stay in. So make sure it's clear to you what poker is to you and what you want to achieve. The second mindset trap is a very regular occurring one. It is to think way too results oriented, especially over the short term. Poker can be a brutal game. Variance is massive in it, especially in tournaments. I've seen basically every player I've worked with struggle with variance at some point. I have struggled with variance. I was at the top of my game in the past, and I've had one of my worst years in 2015, and then I had my best year in 2016, even though I was probably the same skilled player. So sometimes variance can be so crazy and so different. What's the best way to go about this is to work with variance, understanding variance. Poker Dope Calculator is one of the best things. Google it. You will find a tournament variance calculator. It helped me a lot to get a better understanding for variance, because almost all tournament players underestimate variance. You will see with the same level of skill set in a small sample size, you can have crazy variance. So understanding variance will help you a lot, and then focus on the process. So everything that you can influence, you cannot influence the results. The only thing you can influence is how you act, how you show up, how you play, the quality of your play. Focusing on that and just setting small things that you can improve, like things to study on, but maybe also things to do better when you play, how you show up. That's going to go a very long way. So if you do this well, you're going to see the results in the long term. The third mindset trap, that's also a very common one that I think a lot of players have felt to some degree, is being money scared. You are in a big tournament spot and it's for so much money, and you're just really fearing this idea of busting in ninth now, where there's 100K, 200K, 500K for first, and it's so much money and it's such a big bankroll booster, and you just don't want to make a mistake, and that leads to you making a mistake. When you are in those once in a lifetime spots, in these really big spots, and then you freeze because it's for so much money, you are more scared about making a mistake than focusing on playing well. That can happen. I've seen it happen dozens of times. So it's really important to be in a good mental state before you get into these big spots. So dealing with that fear, that anxiety, that money scaredness in before as much as possible on a regular basis. Whenever someone is money scared, I generally think that it comes a lot from not really having an idea for what's gonna happen or a plan. So I would highly suggest that you make plans for the future, that you calculate things. As a pro, you can potentially sell action, you can reduce the variance, you can swap with other players, you can really map out your tournament schedule to reduce the variance, increase your EV or the stability of your EV, and just make your poker journey a more enjoyable one. So when you're money scared, map out your future. I think it will really help to take away that fear. Trap number 4 is when you become too overconfident. I think every player has been there at some point, that they overestimate their own abilities, some more and some less. I actually had this topic quite often with students at some point in their career, because there's always a point where you also run good, and then you start interpreting a lot into these results, and you start thinking you're, maybe here and you can crush high stakes, where you actually need to put in the work, and you maybe just at mid stakes, and that sometimes can be a really brutal awakening and realization. But this is super important, that just because you win or you lose doesn't necessarily mean how good of a player you are. For all the players out there, being too overconfident or putting too much focus on the results is a really dangerous thing or trap to fall into, so avoid that one. And I think the key things to focus on here are being humble, focusing on the long-term journey. Just because you win a tournament for 200K doesn't mean you're now suddenly a high-stakes player. There's a good reason why high-stakes players are where they are, because they have consistently showed up time over time and have worked their way up there. So whenever you have a big bink, that's probably the time where I should spend the most time reflecting and realizing that that has not changed anything. So don't make it too dependent on results. Calm down, be humble, work on progress, and then you will see long-term results. Number 5 mental trap is victim mentality. Especially during play, I have grinded with so many players in the same room, and I sit there and they sit there, and I have headphones on or whatever, and I can hear people complaining or shouting, and often it's about someone else doing something and poor them because now they suffer the consequence. They have played a hand poorly and now they got sucked out or they got lucky. This mentality, especially when you lean into it and when you invest a lot of energy into it, it's going to put you in the wrong place. I promise you, you're not going to be long-term successful with it. So let go of it. The way I would suggest here is to frame it the other way around. Be happy that they made a mistake because that's the reason why poker works. Be grateful that poker is set up in this way because that's the only reason why you can make money with the game. Otherwise, it would be like chess, where there's basically no money to be won in chess unless you're like top 20 in the world, because chess has no variance. So be happy about the variance, be happy that people sometimes make bad plays and get rewarded, because that's what makes poker so great. So don't be a victim, be a winner. Mental trap number 6 is comparing yourselves too much with others. Especially there, be careful to not constantly compare yourself to others. I think it can be very helpful to look around what others are doing, to have a great support system. You know that I'm talking about community and working with other people a lot because it has been tremendously helpful for me, and I think it's just making poker so much more enjoyable. But I also see it change into toxic behavior very often when people are just constantly comparing their own results to others or looking at others all the time, and when they do well or they do better than you, that you're not doing good enough. That's going to be a thing that will just keep you down because you focus so much mental energy there, and you could be focusing this mental energy on your progress. Do not compare yourself to others. Look for the inspiration in there. The most valuable things I've learned is from looking at the best players in the world and looking for inspiration in what makes them the best player in the world. I've watched almost every Phil Galfond video. I've watched every Sauce 123 video when it came out because it was so incredible to hear their talking style when they think about poker. When I look at the high stakes players, I don't look at what I'm not good at. I look at what I think they're excelling at because that inspires me. That makes me a better player. Don't put yourself down by comparing yourself to others. Look at what's amazing about others, and I think that would be much more helpful for you in your career and journey. And point number 7, really big energy cost, anti-sweating others. I think it's one of the most unnecessary things, and it's so common in poker as people put up the rankings and they see someone won the tournament, they're like, this guy won again. So many people on that list that whoever wins something, it's just constantly annoyance that like, unless they win, it doesn't count as something to be happy about. So I've seen this every Sunday. You pull up the tournament lobbies and you're annoyed about someone else who won. I think that is really not healthy for your own sake. It's just gonna drag you down. And I think it's so important to just focus on things that you can celebrate, like focus on the people that you really enjoy seeing being successful, focus on their success rather than focusing on wishing someone else a bad thing. I think that's just focusing energy on something that's really not good for you. And on the other hand, focus on things that you can influence, because you cannot influence who is winning the tournament, but you can influence what you're doing for your own journey, your own progress, and your own well-being. I think it's really not worth it to anti-sweat others. And I've seen it so many times over the years that I wanted to bring it up because I think it's just not beneficial for your career. Let's celebrate others, not put them down. I made a video on 5 spots where they always have it. So go check out that one if you're interested in improving your poker game. And if you want to support the channel, I would highly appreciate if you leave a subscribe. See you guys for the next one.